Good morning, everybody. It's Friday, October 30th. Cale Casey with you, Public Information Officer at Pacific Northwest Team 2 for the Break It Down for Friday morning before the holiday weekend. So we have an all-star lineup today with Operations Chief Reggie Bray going to kick us off in just 1 second. Just wanted to thank everybody for all the comments last night at the community meeting. We are following up with that this morning. We have our weather specialist, Byrd, here, also our fire behavior specialist, Hetts, here, and then Captain Joe from Larimer County is back to answer those critical evacuation questions. We also want to give a shout out to all the evacuees out there and let the public know that our public information officers go from evacuation center and hotel where they are housed each day and provide an update in person for all those evacuees. And we are feeling for you, and we know that Captain Joe is working on getting you back home as well as the fire team. Introducing for the first time, because he's out in the field every day, Reggie Bray, our Operations Field Section Chief.
Good morning. Thanks again. My name is Reggie Bray, one of the Operations Chiefs with Pacific Northwest Team 2. And I'm typically in the field. I'm the field operations in charge of most of the operations that are going on the ground. So I'll start to kind of overall plan for today and kind of what's been going on here the last few days. So one thing, just looking at the north side of the fire, around Red Feather Lakes, there were some areas that we still hadn't shown containment on. We actually have some folks looking at those today, making sure that the fire is actually out in those areas, and we'll continue to look at that. One of the other things that's going on is we were able to fly with IR MMA. That's a flight that detects heat, and this west and north side of the fire was showing no heat as of last night. So one of the other things that's going on the north side is we're continuing to gain access across the fire, but especially up in here to start to assess repair and things that we can start to pull equipment, hoses, pumps, things like that off the fire, and then also start to look at some of those dozer lines, things like that we maybe can start to repair once the snow finished melting. Moving around to down to the east side of the fire, especially this Buckhorn area, we actually have resources today that are looking at getting to some of the hot spots that were identified in here, continuing to just take care of those, put those out. As the snow melts, we're able to get some better access into there, and they're also continuing to look at suppression repair. One of the areas that we've been looking at, I've flown for the last several days that the team has been assigned here. We started noticing there was still heat around Pingree Park. One thing to note about that is there's still about a foot of snow across that whole area there. So what's burning up there are just pockets of dead and down large logs that are on fire. They continue to burn under the snow, but really no threat. We're going to continue to watch those. Those are inaccessible. It's not really safe to put crews on the ground. We still have crews in here that are looking at the structure protection and things like that, but they're also assessing some of the suppression repair that's going to go on, mainly there around the CSU campus in Pingree Park, just making sure that we need to get some of that equipment off the hill in the future, just so it doesn't get snowed in up there later on. But we still have people there. We're looking at that, making sure that that's going to stay in place and not move. Feel pretty confident about that. One thing that we do have going on today is UAS. That's our unmanned drones. And so they get up, they have infrared on them. We're able to take a look at the heat. We can also, use the video from that and get a real clear picture of what's going on and where that is and how we can deal with that in the future if need be. So moving on down to the North Fork Trail here, just to the slop over that crossed. Still scattered heat on it. Again, it's a really inaccessible area. We are looking at trying to do some direct and indirect tactics. We are continuing to look at options to have a plan in place. If the snow melts that this fire wanted to move, we would continue to work on the plan that the previous team had, but looking at tying some indirect pieces just to the south and back into some secure areas, so that way if the fire wants to move, we have that in place. But also there are some resources that may try to to look at that, we're going to use UAS today and define some of that heat and see what that looks like. Continue just burning logs, things like that under the snow. Moving down to the retreat and Storm Mountain, we're having access issues in there. The snow's really hanging in there on those roads. We're not able to really get into some of that real well, but there is some scattered heat there. Still lots of snow up there, so that fire is not moving anywhere. It's not going anywhere. But as we continue, we're going to continue to look at some repair of the suppression tactics that were made there, and then starting to look at the equipment and stuff, things that maybe doesn't need to be there while this snow's on. One thing that we're able to do is here around Cedar Park is take care of the this line here. We're able to secure it. Actually got some boots on the ground up there yesterday. We're going to continue to try to do that across this whole southern part of the Cameron Peak as we continue in the next few days, especially as the snow melts and we can gain access. So moving down to the Thompson Zone, the fire from the East Troublesome that came into the Rocky Mountain National Park, able to fly it the last several days. Scattered heat around the whole fire. It's moved into this lower area down here in the Bear Meadows. It's really just grass, and so that fire continues to stay in the footprint that it's currently in. Yesterday, we were able to actually get some boots on the ground. We started going hot spotting and securing that edge out of Bear Lake and there on the north and south side of the fire. So actually had resources, hot shots in there looking at that, continuing to mop that up where they needed to and secure that edge. Today we have a UAS flight scheduled for that, a drone. They're going to get in there and they're going to just continue to look at the hot spots and make sure that we're finding all those that we can safely gain access to. Some of that area we won't be able to put people in, so we're looking at an indirect option. The park has done some really good work with fuel treatments on the 34 road, 36 road, back up toward the YMCA. And so we're going to just continue to look at those options, get our plans ready, and make sure if the snow melts and the fire starts to move, we can implement some of those. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Reggie. And we'll go ahead with Dan Byrd, Incident Meteorologist, National Weather Service Specialist, Dan Byrd.
All right, good morning, everyone. So pretty nice day today. Temperatures are going to be maybe a couple degrees warmer than we saw yesterday up across the fire, ranging from upper 40s to mid 50s. Down in the lower valleys, warmer temperatures. Could see temperatures close to 60 degrees. Relative humidity is generally in the 30% range today. So as we progress, the bigger change comes this evening. A cold front's going to approach us from the north or northwest as we get into the evening hours, and the winds are going to increase out of the west out ahead of it. Up at the higher elevations, generally above 8,000 feet, winds are going to increase 20 gusts 30 this evening hours across, like I say, 8,000 feet, and also across the higher elevations. And so the winds are going to continue to increase as that cold front moves closer to us during the overnight hours. And after about midnight or so, the winds are going to increase above 8,000 feet to generally 30. We could see some gusts 50 as we get after midnight to 1 to 2 in the morning. And those strong winds are going to continue to blow through the night, midnight, or through the nighttime hours till I would say 10 to noon tomorrow. The winds are going to be gusting to 50, and once again, that's generally above 8,000 feet. The winds are going to be lighter as we get over to the eastern portions of the fire over here. But once again, above 8,000 feet. And it looks like the winds will begin to diminish tomorrow afternoon, probably after 12 or 2 o'clock, somewhere in that range. Gusts 30 during the afternoon hours on Saturday. Then after about 6 o'clock on Saturday, the winds will be relatively light. So once again, it could see some pretty strong winds overnight tonight. RHs overnight are probably going to be about 30 to 40% min RHs tonight into tomorrow. Then once we get into tomorrow, or into Sunday, that is, or the winds tomorrow night are going to be light, and then Sunday the winds are going to be, it could see some gusts 20 to 30 on Sunday with RHs in the 30 to 40% range or so. And then as we progress through next week, the change is going to be is that that cold front's going to move off to the east of us. Upper level ridging is going to once again reestablish itself over us Sunday night into Monday, and then we're going to see warm temperatures pretty much Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday next week. Across the fire, the temperatures may approach 60 degrees above 8,000 feet Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. For the most part, upper 50s, but could 60, and then we get into lower elevations. Temperatures are going to be into the 60s through much of next week, so very warm temperatures. And also the RHs, relative humidities, are going to be pretty dry through much of next week. We'll probably see upper teens and into the 20% range with poor overnight recoveries pretty much most of next week. Winds are going to be under the upper level ridging, though the winds are relatively going to be light most of next week, maybe gust 20 or so each day. As we get into late next week, on Saturday and Sunday, we're seeing another pattern change. Upper level troughing is going to develop and deepen over the western portions of the U.S. And by Saturday night and the weekend of the weekend of the 7th and 8th, we could see a little bit of rain, or increased chances for rain, and possibly some snow during that period. But things can change. But right now, that's kind of what it looks like. That's all I have. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Dan. And next up is our fire behavior analyst, Katie Hetts. And we know some folks up at Estes Park were noticing the winds yesterday and wondering how that might affect the fire. Katie?
Okay, good morning, everyone. Katie Hetts, fire behavior analyst, as Cale pointed out. So I'm going to try and combine what both Reggie and Dan have said to talk about what the fire behavior may be doing in sort of the days and up to a week ahead. So obviously we had a pretty significant snow event here that helped dampen the fire, and that's been in play for the last few days. Looking forward, what I think I want to key on most is, in fact, we are having a west wind event. Nothing to the extent of the significant west wind events that have moved this fire significantly and also created the East Troublesome fire from coming over and spotting over the divide, and now we're responsible for that, what we're calling the Thompson zone of the East Troublesome fire. So because we've had this snow and the fire is dampened, I think really the west wind event may, in a way, work to our favor, in the sense of it's going to help us see what fire we really have out there still on the landscape that needs to be addressed. And so I'm going to do a little bit of a walk around like Reggie did. So let's start with the Pingree Park area. So if we have like northwest, west winds, with this heat in here, I think people may in fact see some more smoke. I don't think the fire is gonna, get up into the crowns and start like moving into Pingree Park. And again, I think the winds that we do have for a shorter period of time, 12 to 18 hours, and steady winds not as high, and just gust speeds to 50, I think may show some of the heat in there. So I want people to be aware of that. But I think that's going to work to our favor, so firefighters can see where they have the fire still on the landscape and are more able to protect Pingree Park and the CSU campus facility in there. Okay, so let's move over to here, moving a little further east now. Again, with west winds, northwest winds, that may expose some of the heat that's still in this what we're calling the North Fork Trail slopover, where the fire came. You can see this sort of bulbous thing. And again, I know this community's been through a lot, and the people in Glen Haven may in fact see some more smoke and some more activity, but again, I think this is working in our favor to expose where we do still have heat on the landscape. So that when we dry out, after the wind event, it's going to be easier for crews to get in there, and it's going to be a lot more visible, and we're going to be able to address it. So there's less heat in this area, and I think the containment is really increased, so I'm not going to speak too much about the whole Cedar Park, Storm Mountain, what I guess is called the retreat area in here, but some smokes may show in there, but I think crews are able to get some access, and as Reggie said, there's going to be some drone flights in various places, Pingree Park, Glen Haven, to, again, another way to help us identify of where we still have fire on the landscape. So that's essentially what I'm going to say about the Cameron Peak fire. Lastly, I'm going to talk a little bit about what we're calling the Thompson Zone of the East Troublesome Fire down here to the west of Estes Park. And there is still a lot of snow up there. That said, depending on how quickly that comes off and how much the west wind dries that area, there may be smokes coming, I think, particularly maybe in like Division Zulu, there may be more smoke, so that would be sort of the south end of this Thompson Zone area. So again, similar principle of west winds coming. I understand that the values at risk are to the east of where we have some fire on the landscape, but I don't think the winds are going to be long enough or strong enough to create any real concern of the fire moving significantly towards the values at risk. So let me just close with a little looking forward beyond sort of the dry cold front west wind event. And that is, so we have the west wind event for 12, 18 hours over Friday night into Saturday. So conditions may look a little different Saturday. But then Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and throughout the week, next week, we continue to warm up and dry out with what we call poor recoveries overnight. And poor recovery means that the humidities do not increase significantly overnight. So I think that week, our dry week next week, will be an excellent opportunity for crews to begin to address what we have seen the west wind expose during the Friday night, Saturday event. And then ultimately, and I don't want to speak in too much jargon, but after we have essentially a week of drying, then, and it's a ways out, so, you know, the further out the forecast goes, the less reliable it is. I'm sure most people, if not everyone, understands that. But essentially, we probably have like a week of drying that we need to really hang on to and, you know, seek greater containment of this fire before potentially there's more moisture in the form of rain and or snow that comes that will further help us, that will further assist us contain more and more of this fire. And that's what I've got for you today.
Great, thank you so much, Katie. That was great. I'm going to go ahead and bring up real quick again Reggie Bray, Operations Chief, to answer a few questions from the online audience before we go to Captain Joe. I know everybody's waiting to hear the evacuation update, but we wanted to get Reggie Bray in there to address the area in the North Fork Trail. And also a real quick question about the size of the drones we use, Reggie. Just about if you could show the physical size, maybe with your hand width.
Okay, sure, yeah, gladly. First, I'll just speak to the slop over that's over the North Fork Trail. So we've been flying that. I think I've given Cale some video of that the last few days. I'll actually try to do that again today, this morning later. So what we're seeing is just on the infrared flight that we had yesterday, we're seeing just scattered heat. And so that would show heat that's under the snow that actually we can't really see. What we've seen physically with our eyesight is as we've flown, we've seen a couple of small just pockets of heat. One about right in here and one or two right in here. They're inside the edge of the actual fire, so they're inside. They're not outside of this edge. You can actually see, if you've seen those videos, you've been able to see the difference in the fire. It had a lot of intensity as it ran the slope and then got to the top of the ridge and stopped. So typically when that happens, it'll throw spots out. And so those spots are some of the heat that we're picking up that we can't see. But the issue is actually getting resources in there and doing it safely. Right now, that heat is burning in those heavy fuels with snow all around them. So it's not moving. But that doesn't mean that, as it melts, it could. So we are looking at opportunities. There's a trail that comes out that we're looking at opportunities to see if we can safely get resources in there. If not, we're also looking, I mentioned the indirect lines that we're looking at potentially to protect all the structures in Glen Haven and everything else, that we keep that fire to the west of those. And that's really, the thing we do is we're gonna continue to watch this with the drones. We're going to fly it as much as we can when it's safe to do so. When the high winds come up, maybe tomorrow we may not be able to, but we're going to use those drones to mitigate that as well and keep them here and continue to watch that. And then as the snow goes off, we'll continue to build our plan, or at least have that plan in place to implement once we see some conditions change and we set some action points that would justify or that would trigger us to take those actions to get that into place. And I hope that answers your questions for that. As far as the UAS, so we have two different types of UAS here today. We have a smaller type drone that is about this big, so about the size, about 4 or 5 feet across. It has 4 propellers on it. It has infrared and thermal imagery capabilities. And so it's a propeller type, and we use it for more low level, really get in and get down and look at stuff. It also has a plastic sphere dispenser, so we can actually use it to fire, drop plastic spheres that we would use to ignite fire if we needed to do that. I don't foresee us using that capability of that, but it's just a tool that has that we're able to use. So the other drone, the other UAS that we got in today is actually a Type 1. So that's the largest ones that we have. And this is more like the large, almost airplane, Predator type looking drone. This drone flies at about 16 to 20,000 feet. The imagery and those things are about the highest that you can get, so they fly above. As we're flying around in the helicopters and we're doing recons and doing other work, it's actually above us, and so it's able to focus on some areas a little bit more closely. I mentioned it today. It's going to be we're just getting it set up, but they're going to be looking at this stuff here in just to the west of Estes Park today. But that's what that drone is. That UAS has those capabilities of infrared, thermal, and things like that. It's more for recon, for us to give us live inputs. We can actually have somebody in the field standing right by the pilot as he's flying that. It has about a 50-mile radius that we can work from. It's line of sight. All these UAS drones, all of these are all line of sight. That's the way we operate. So hopefully that answers your questions. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Reggie. And now, for the 3rd day in a row, we're all very grateful to have Captain Shellhammer from the Larimer County Sheriff's Office. Lots of questions for you, as you know, Captain Joe.
Well, thanks, Gail. As a community, man, we are super, super lucky to have this team here. The amount of talent that's on this team is just utterly amazing, and the amount of energy that they're bringing this late in the fire season, I'm just super grateful to them, and thanks for them getting here and hoping to put this monster to bed. Monsters, obviously. All right, let's talk some evacuation stuff. Obviously, we downgraded things in Estes earlier this week. I don't see many changes through the weekend. Things are going to kind of stay the same there until we kind of see what happens weather-wise here. We have some wind events coming, not the crazy wind events that we had in the past, but things we need to pay attention. So obviously you're going to see more smoke. You're going to see some things changing, and that's a good sign and a bad sign, right? Our fire folks can get in there and actually find where the hot spots are and then get after it. So I don't see a lot of changes down here in the Estes Park area. Again, we have this problem up here, the slop over problem. And when I hiked in there a couple days ago, and what Reggie was talking about, there are dead down trees that are probably stacked about this high. And the fire is on the ground below that. So all that snow is built up above on those logs, and the moisture is not directly getting to where those hot spots are. Hopefully the snow melts off slowly, drips down on that, and gets that duff nice and wet, and nothing happens there. So that being said, with that heat energy still in here, and there's still a lot of fuels left to be burned in there, I don't see many changes happening in the Glen Haven, Storm Mountain, Cedar Park area. This is a pretty big threat, right? winds coming out of the west. We want people to stay awake and paying attention. And with those roads being one way in, one way out in most of those locations, I don't see us making many changes there this weekend. Some of the places I'd like to make some changes is this upper Buckhorn area. Going to get with the team. The next meeting we have is to talk about this and talk about what's going on with that little opening area there, and maybe make some changes up there. That would be one of the changes that may occur today. Other than that, probably going to stay pretty status quo. Some other things that the Sheriff's Office was doing yesterday, the folks up in Stringtown and Moondance and Wild Song, those areas up there that have lost properties, lost outbuildings. We used our initial attack module to get folks in there to see their properties, to start assessing what they need to do, and we were successful doing that. The roads obviously are icy and slushy, so it's pretty tricky. And that, the animals that we have at the evac center, if your status has changed and you're in a non-evac area now, or you're in a voluntary area and you're thinking about bringing your horses or cattle back, I would pay attention to what the roads are like. And if you need to wait a couple more days till the roads dry out so you can get your trailers back in there, I would do that. Let's not create other problems or other anxiety by getting your trailer stuck and then the horses and having to deal with that whole big problem. So take your time, be patient, and let's use good conditions to get those animals back where they need to be. The last thing I want to talk about is smokes. Our community's been super paying attention to what's going on, and we're getting a lot of calls. Hey, I see smoke over here, or I see smoke there. Some of the things to take into account. If you're seeing fire or you're seeing smoke and it's close to a home or it's close to the edge of the outside of the fire, obviously call that in. We'll get some resources to take a look at it and handle that problem if we need to. We're also getting calls about smoke up here off of Highway 14 where it's well within the perimeter of the fire. There are pockets of green. When you look at this map, you think, oh, this whole thing is burned. Well, it's more of a mosaic, and there's islands of green throughout this whole map. So if the island of green has some smoke coming out of it and it's well within the perimeter, and there's black around it, you probably don't have to call about that. But if you're not sure, obviously make the call. We'll come out, we'll take a look at it and assess if there is a danger there, and then we'll move forward.
Okay, great, Captain Joe. Thank you very much. And just a quick review of Estes, the town of Estes Park yesterday. I used my words poorly. I was so excited that you showed up and I said Estes Park is closed. The national park is closed. The national forest is closed. The town of Estes is back open, and the locals want to know what you're seeing as any potential threat. There's a blanket of snow out there. We did put a video up this morning from the Mountain National Park gate that shows that blanket of snow. So clearly the fire's not going to be moving anytime soon, but just that general risk.
I wouldn't want to say that we're 100% in the clear and everything's all good. I do feel the next coming days, probably through the weekend, I think we're in a really, really good spot. And I don't see much movement coming out of the East Troublesome east corner here. And like Cale said, the Rocky Mountain National Park's closed, and all the forest around it is closed. We don't want more people in there, getting in the way or creating other problems. So all this is closed, but the town itself is open. Estes Park town is open, and we want commerce to happen there. We want those businesses that have been struggling through this year to be open and try to get their feet back under them again. But if you're up there, you need to pay attention. This thing has gotten up on surprising days and after a foot of snow and made crazy runs. So if you do go there, pay attention, be dialed into what's going on, and if you need to leave, you have a plan to leave. Have your stuff, squared away that you can get out in a relatively quick manner.
Great. And what's the best way to get alerted for folks up there?
Well, there's NOCO alerts. The town of Estes has their own webpage that you can also get dialed in to even get text messages on your phone. Our Joint Information Center, you can call that and get update. If you have any questions, call them. They're open. And obviously just, make good, smart decisions and hopefully we're turning the corner and putting these monsters to bed.
Great, thank you very much. And we'll see you after the weekend, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Thanks, Gil.
Thank you so much. Okay, jumping back in. So thanks to our online audience. We had 900 live viewers the whole time. We know this was a long meeting, but it replaces tonight's Friday night meeting. You're ready for the weekend now. You have a lot of information there. Captain Joe just mentioned the contact information. That's all in the posts of this video, and oftentimes it's in a lot of the posts and all the updates and everywhere. So we have our information out there, how to sign up for text alerts, what to do if you have questions on either fire zone and what have you. We also want to give a shout out to all of our public information officers working in the background here, answering your questions. That will continue, whether you're watching live or on the rebroadcast. We do go back throughout the day. We have a very dedicated staff. We're here for you. That's our mission. We know we're getting through this together. This is a community supporting community, neighbor supporting neighbor type event. And to be a part of the solution, please don't get complacent. Stay tuned. I know it's frustrating that you can't get back in here yet, but there's a lot of hazards and dangers that we're going to get on film today and get back on video. So you'll see that on YouTube. We do put a lot of extra videos on YouTube. So thanks so much. We appreciate you out there. And again, if you're going to look for donations, those need to go to the Red Cross or local fire departments. We're all set. Our firefighters are taken care of. We don't need any donations whatsoever. Those can go to the American Cross, local fire departments. Even the ranch here has too much hay and straw and everything for the animals. People are so generous. Again, that's neighbors helping neighbors. And when we all support each other, we get to do it together. Thanks so much.